And we're back, folks, right here on WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham G. Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network, as well as on the E! Network, as today we're talking Season 5, Episode 6 of Total Bellas, entitled Salsa Caliente. Now, I thought this was a very good episode overall, largely because they've kind of hinted at issues between Nikki and Arden since the start of the season, and they've got along very well for the most part, but I think it was hinted at specifically last week, when Brie was noticing that Nikki and Arden were all over each other, and she was talking about, the honeymoon phase is almost over, blah, 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 because they were doing all the whole PDA thing, and that was a big part of last week's episode. Now, that said more about Brie than it did. I think that was supposed to say more about Brie than the relationship between Arden and Nikki, because Brie has been lacking the PDA and the affection and the attention from Daniel Bryan, her husband, in recent months, whatever. That was kind of the theme of last week's episode. This episode was all about Brie and Nikki. There wasn't even really a side story, and there was. The sub-story on this episode was Brie wanting to reconnect with her Mexican roots and wanting more so JJ to follow in her footsteps. That didn't even really come into play here as much as the stuff with Nikki and Arden did. So to kick off the episode, we see Brie and Nikki go album shopping, and they want to reconnect. They admit they want to reconnect with their Mexican roots in Mexicali, where they're going to go visit their dad pretty soon. And they want JJ to join them. And when I say they, specifically Brie wants JJ to join them on this trip. Because as we've established before here on the show, earlier on in the season, JJ is not on great terms with her dad. He hasn't talked to them in a long time. Brie has been talking to her dad on and off for years. Nikki hasn't really talked to him, but she wasn't, against the idea of, getting him back in her life. JJ is vehemently against the idea of reconnecting with his dad, just because of the strained relationship they've had over the course of his life. So anyway, Brie, meanwhile, also wants to learn more Spanish. I feel like I know more Spanish than they do. They were, mispronouncing words. They were going over what, deskman and table, la mesa. I forgot what desk was, but I did fucking Spanish for 6-7 years from middle school to high school. Took one accelerated course in Spanish, too. Didn't do all that well at it, but I am happy to say, for whatever that's worth, I took an AP class in Spanish because I guess they thought I was smart enough to have that my senior year in high school. The point of that being, I feel like I know more about Spanish, taking it in high school and whatnot, and that was over 6-7 years ago, than they do. And they're supposed to be so proud of their Mexican roots and all this other stuff, and they haven't spoken Spanish, apparently, in quite some time. If they don't even know what table is, Brie asked Nikki, do you know what table is in Spanish? And I think she said la cena, which is actually dinner. Cena is dinner, and the only reason why I remember that is because I'm thinking, John Cena, John Dinner, which is so fucking dumb. But that's how I remember that. I don't even really remember what breakfast or lunch is from what I can recall. But she doesn't even know what table is. All right, it's a la mesa. Even I remembered that. So clearly they're not all that connected with their roots as much as they claim to be. But so she labels everything in her office in Spanish to kind of help her get adjusted and kind of help her get more familiar and get, kind of smarten herself up on the Spanish language. So meanwhile, Arden feels that Nikki's been way too busy lately, and that he just wants to go out and spend a night out in the town, go dancing, salsa dancing, whatever. Just spend some old-fashioned quality time together, some nice old bonding time together. And she agrees that she's been busy lately, hasn't had the time to really devote her full attention to Arden. So Brie goes to visit Lauren and JJ, Vivian, and their other daughter, son. I think it's a daughter. She goes to visit them and gives Vivian a gift, which is like a Mexican dress or something, which JJ calls into question. And he's not, questioning her genuine, niceness of giving, his daughter a gift, but rather, why is it like this Mexican dress? Why are you all of a sudden so interested in reconnecting with your Mexican roots after all this time? And, it's a pretty, it's a safe question to ask. It's not egregious by any means. It's pretty, logical thing to ask. And she says, I just want to reconnect with Mexican roots, and I want you to join us. I want you to maybe not just come to Mexicali, but also kind of become more Mexican as we are. And he goes, which is a great line, and he's absolutely right. He even says, I don't feel like I have to buy Mexican stuff to be Mexican. And he says it at the end of the episode as well. He doesn't really change his stance whatsoever. It's really Brie is the one who's being pushy on JJ, on her brother JJ. about how he should reconnect, although he already is Mexican and is already living that from day to day. Maybe not so much as they are or their dad, but still, I mean, he's doing what he can without actually being like, oh, look at me, I'm Mexican, I'm celebrating Cinco de Mayo, that type of bullshit. JJ understands, what you guys want to do, you can do what you want, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, don't force it on me, which I completely agree with. I feel like the guys on this episode, we don't see Daniel Bryan too much at all. I don't think we see him whatsoever, actually, now that I think about it. But I think the guys on this episode, that being JJ and Arden, are absolutely in the right in their respective stories, especially Arden when we get to that whole shit. So Bree says, oh, it's all about the kids, and, you should put in the effort to want your kids to know Spanish. It's like, get the fuck over yourself. Like, if you guys want to teach your own kids Spanish and do all that, that's amazing. But you don't have to force it on your brother and your nieces and nephews and other shit like that. It's just not necessary. So anyway, the next part of the episode is all about but Nikki and Arden. So I guess the Bellas, Nikki says that she's hosting some sort of Temptation Island event. I don't know if she's talking about the show Temptation Island or if there's like a restaurant called Temptation Island. Either way, they go together. She's hosting said event, and it's a big premiere, I think is what she said. So that was the same night that Nikki was supposed to go on a date with Arden. So I wrote down postpones here, but she's not really postponing the date. What she's doing is just simply delaying it. So she's going to go do the hosting gig at this restaurant with Brie, and then Arden is going to meet her there, pick her up, and they'll go salsa dancing. That's the plan, I believe, as of this point in the episode. Of course, while they're there, Nikki gets drunk, and a lot of this isn't caught on camera until after, Arden shows up. The first part of the event is not documented for whatever reason. They follow these people into the weirdest places. They fucking showed Brie peeing on a stick to kick off the season, but they won't capture footage of Nikki. And maybe it's a licensing issue. I don't know, because it's Temptation Island. It's not, it's not their network. It's USA. I have no clue. I really have no idea. But they don't get any footage of that. But what they do show is Arden showing up at the building, because he shows up to pick her up. And all he was going to do was wait outside in his car, wait for Nikki to come down, and then they're off. I don't know if it was Brie or Nikki, but one of them told Arden, I think it was Nikki, just come on up, we'll talk for a couple minutes, and then we'll leave. Okay, fair enough. So then when he shows up, or actually even before he shows up, he calls her while they're having this conversation. He realizes that she's talking to a guy. Now, again, the fact that she's talking to a guy, which she completely blows out of proportion. This isn't, the boyfriend of Eva Marie from, like, the first season of Total Divas, who came across as such a freaking clown more often than not. I think his name was Jonathan or something. He came across as a selfish, not selfish, but like a jealous clown, one of those typical boyfriends. Arden doesn't really scream that way at all to me, at least in this episode. And first of all, if you hear your girlfriend on the phone talking to another guy at this party, of course they're going to be suspicious, but it's not just that. The fact about it is that he hears her on the phone talking to this guy, and she's obviously drunk. She's obviously intoxicated. She has no idea what she's talking about. And clearly she's not serious, but she's like, oh, I just met this guy, we should bring him out on the dinner date with us, blah, blah, blah. What really ticks Arden off is that this night originally was supposed to be all about them. Him specifically, but all about them, giving him the time that he's been waiting for this entire time, because she's been so busy. She kind of screwed him by holding the date after this premiere event, whatever the hell it is. And now she's not flirting with this guy. That's what Brie says to... Brie does not help the situation at all. I'll tell you that much right now. Brie tries to interfere and play the median. I forgot what the name of the word is that I'm looking for here. But what they're trying to do, or what she's trying to do, is be the voice of reason, so to speak, between Arden and Nikki. Although she even tells Nikki later on, oh, he thought that you were flirting with this guy. He never said that. Maybe he did over the phone to Brie and we just don't get that conversation here, but he never said that. He was more so concerned, why are you, super into a conversation with this guy while you're intoxicated? He may be trying to take advantage of you, and I'm not even there. And this night was supposed to be about me. Maybe just because I'm the guy in the situation, so I can... Not that I can say I've been in this situation specifically, but I completely agree. If that was me, I'd be fucking pissed too. I'd be absolutely pissed. So anyway, what happens is he shows up. He realizes that this guy ain't gonna leave her alone. What he probably should have done was show up and maybe this wouldn't have been that much better, and like told him off or been like, hey, can you leave my girlfriend alone? He gets really upset about the whole thing, so he just leaves himself. He just takes off. Brie said that she had never seen or heard Arden be so mad in her life. Nikki gets pissed about this whole thing, and then Brie becomes Nikki's new date for the salsa dancing because, Arden took off. So while there, Nikki starts angrily dancing with all these other guys, and not like cheating on Arden, but, she's dancing with other guys, and she's all over these people like, I would question this too. I don't blame Arden one bit in this situation. I will tell you right now. And again, maybe I'm biased because I'm the guy, and I don't know. I feel like I've agreed with the Bellas in certain situations on the show as well. But in this specific situation, it is 100% Nikki's fault. I do not, I can kind of see what she means later on when she was like, oh, you were embarrassed, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't it was supposed to be all about him, bitch. Like, this was supposed to be all about him from the get-go. Like, this was supposed to be his night out with you, spending some quality time, not about you getting drunk and making it all about yourself and other people. Like, get the fuck out of here. I thought that was so dumb. So, while they're salsa dancing, Nikki and Brie run into their friend Luis, or Louie, whatever. I think his name is Luis. They run into him. That's when Arden shows up. He shows up to clear the air, make everything better, to apologize for walking out, whatever. But then he leaves again after being ignored. He's trying to talk to Nikki, and she's standing there talking to their friend, and he gets fucking pissed. Again, as anyone would be. Again, I completely relate to him in this situation. I completely get it. I completely sympathize with Arden in this situation. So he gets pissed again, and he walks out again, as he should have. Why sit there and be disrespected? So Brie chases on after him. She's not as intoxicated as Nikki is, but she convinces him to go back. She basically says, that's just how my sister is, that she loves you. If she didn't, I wouldn't be here right now, blah, 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 blah. Shut the fuck up. Like, this is so annoying because she takes him back into the salsa dancing place and she has him watch while she dances with other guys in that building. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, he even says, I'm like reading this guy's mind before he even says it. He goes, I'm not going to sit here and be disrespected. This is ridiculous. To sit here and just be like, okay with the fact that my girl's dancing with all these other guys, not even acknowledging me when it was her fault to begin with, is completely stupid. It's so fucking dumb. So Nikki then goes after him, not to apologize, but to argue. Because she's still drunk. And she's like, oh, why were you jealous? Blah, blah, blah. You embarrassed me. This is all your fault. Fuck you. Like, she gets really nasty. And he's simply trying to avoid the situation, to avoid doing something dumb. So that's why he's leaving. And Nikki's like, she doesn't even know what she did wrong. What the fuck? She's like, she thinks in her mind that, she was doing absolutely nothing wrong. And then Arden, being the overzealous boyfriend, ruined the whole thing. It's like, bitch, like, realize what's really going on here. Clearly, take yourself out of the situation. I do think being intoxicated is a big factor, which is why that reasonable part of her brain is not functioning at this moment. It's completely ridiculous. So Arden feels like it's, impossible to talk to Nikki at this point because, again, he's not going to say it outright, but she's drunk and she's not thinking straight. And all she wants to do is argue and be angry. He just wants to be rational. She doesn't. So he just removes himself from the situation, which is the smart thing to do. To avoid doing something dumb, to avoid wasting your time continuing to argue after, over, not nothing, but over something so dumb that is clearly her fault. And Brie tries to go, oh, that's my sister. That's just how she is. I hate that argument. Oh, that's just how they are. Got to deal with it. No, that's not how she is. Like, that's not who his girlfriend is normally. That's not who she is. Brie's really trying to defend Nikki here, and again, she doesn't make the situation any better, does Brie? She's completely useless here. So Nikki's on the phone, leaving the salsa bar on the phone with Brie. I don't know where Brie went and why she left Nikki alone, intoxicated. But Nikki goes, oh, maybe I'm not meant to be in a relationship, because they were kind of blaming it on Arden. And Brie kind of made it sound to Nikki over the phone, and maybe she didn't feel that way, and she simply said it to Nikki just so she wouldn't go off on her. But if I was Brie, I'd be like, listen, bitch, like, you're absolutely in the wrong here. He's not doing this out of a certain way because he's jealous or he's angry. He's frustrated for a reason. This is your fault. She tries to put the blame on Arden, too, not to his face, but on the phone to Nikki. It's ridiculous. So Nikki gets home, but Arden is who's already there. He's already there. And he realizes this conversation ain't going anywhere, so he just cuts it off, from the get-go. He's like, listen, we're not going to agree. You're not going to listen to me. It's a one-sided conversation. Just go to bed. Leave me alone. Go do your own thing. I don't want to discuss this right now. So Nikki goes up to him. She wants to continue this conversation because she's like, oh, is it because I'm right? It's right that you don't want to continue this conversation? You know that I'm right. That's why you don't want to continue? It's like, oh my God, if I was him, I would have gone fucking off. I don't know how he kept so calm in this in this situation, in this conversation. I just would have gone off. That was me. So he's a better man than I. But she was like, oh, it's because you were embarrassed. It's because you were jealous, that I'm right, blah, 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 blah. And Arden even says, can you guys stop filming for a few minutes? And that's when they go to commercial. That's how serious this thing gets. And again, he could be, they could be just playing it up for the show and whatnot. But it's a very real, it's from what it seems like a very real scenario that could happen to pretty much anyone. So I'm glad they caught this on camera. So anyway, Nikki wakes up the next day, and she's with Brie because they're on their way to a Birdie Bee meeting. And she tells Brie that she's completely hungover, she feels terrible, and she also doesn't know what her relationship status is. Not at this present moment. She's not saying like, oh, I think he may have broken up with me, or I broke up with him. From what I can gather from what she's saying here, she might be addressing that as well. That might be what she's talking about. But I also feel like what she's addressing and what she's referencing is that she doesn't even know what they are. She doesn't know if they're single and they're simply just talking or if they're in a relationship. Fucking, like, are you fucking kidding me? They've been together now for a year. They said that at the start of this season. They've been talking now for a year. How the fuck do you talk to someone for a year, basically live with the person, and not consider them to be your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever? That makes no sense. That's gotta be bullshit, because that made absolutely no sense. So she realizes that she texted some pretty mean stuff to Arden. So again, if that was me, I'd be like, see ya, bitch, bye. I'm out of here. Maybe it's because she's attractive or whatever. That's why he stuck around. I don't know. But I would see that shit, how she acted, how she would, talk to him, how she talked to him, and what she texted. I could only imagine what the text said. After what she said to him in person about, like, fuck you, and she was swearing at him, and then I could only imagine what went down in the texts. And it wasn't even like he texted her. She was the one who initiated said texts. Completely unnecessary, ridiculous, and embarrassing for Nikki, all right? So Nikki even says, I don't want to be in a relationship where I question what I did wrong. Again, you're sober now, you shouldn't be saying this dumb shit, because she's saying that she compared it to her other past relationships. Probably John Cena and other people that she's been with that she also wrote about in their book that just came out this past week. Haven't read it. Maybe I will check it out at some point. I don't know. But she's had a lot of bad relationship history in the past with the person that she was with, because I guess she easily gets taken advantage of from that respect emotionally, in terms of like letting people dictate what they want to do with her, in the sense that, oh, you're talking to that guy, you shouldn't be. Like, a lot of guys can be like that. I totally get it. But in this situation, he's completely in the right. So again, in her defense, maybe that her past experience was what really drove her in that scenario, and was what made her think the way that she did, even though she was drunk, and that was probably why she thought the way that she did about Arden and how he felt and whatever, or didn't feel, regardless, because she wasn't really sympathizing with him as much as she probably should have. So anyway, I don't think that's this type of situation where she has to question what she did wrong. She was questioning, well, she should have questioned it, because she was in the wrong. And it's not like, oh, I did absolutely nothing wrong and I, whatever. And yeah, there are situations where the other person freaks out and you have no idea why, and you think you're being completely logical, and you shouldn't question yourself. In this situation anyway, she should be questioning herself, because she was in the wrong. It wasn't a case where, oh, I was talking to this guy so he flipped out. That's not what happened at all. She does not. He probably should have said it a little better, and he does later when they make up and whatever. But he does say, like, listen, it wasn't the fact that you were talking to a guy, it was the fact that you blew me off on a date night that we were supposed to go out and have ourselves before this whole thing came up. It was supposed to be about just us, and you're not even treating me with respect over the phone. It's not even like don't drink, but it's like if you're going to be a fucking bitch, then I want nothing to do with you. And honestly, again, I completely sympathize with that. I think he is totally in the right here. Maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like he is totally in the right in this situation. I don't know how many times I can say that, to be honest with you. But anyway, again, Brie, not making the situation any better, simply goes, oh, he might not like you anymore. What the fuck is this, 5th grade? What the fuck? Where the fuck did that come from? I was like, why would you say that? Why would you even say that? He might not like you anymore? Shut the fuck up. I feel like Brie is just as bad on this episode as Nikki is. It's insufferable. And it's not every episode, it's some of the episodes, but specifically on this one, it's so dumb. It's so stupid. So, the Bellas attend a Birdie B meeting, and that's when she goes back to her place, and Arden's there. And that's when they talk it out and whatever. And Nikki starts off the conversation, and she goes, I feel like you would have reacted differently if the person looked differently than he did. Like, if he looked uglier or something, which is completely stupid. It was a dumb thing for her to say, even while she was sober. And he says, listen, I would have reacted the same way if he was, he doesn't say this, but like, handsome, ugly, sexy, whatever. It doesn't matter if it's a guy with no feet, or no legs, or has no face, or whatever. Like, I would have reacted the exact same way, because it wasn't the fact that you were talking to this other guy, it was the fact that you blew me off on our date night, and were treating me disrespectfully. That's what it is. So Arden, or Nikki even says, oh, what do you want? What do you want? Blah, blah, blah. And Arden says, I don't really think that's a question for me to answer. I think it's a question you have to ask yourself. What you want from me and what you want from this relationship. So Arden realizes that she has regrets, as she should, and it breaks his heart, and it shouldn't. I mean, she's completely in the wrong. I'd be like, yeah, bitch, fucking apologize, whatever. So they make up, and they promise to never argue again, blah, 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 blah. So then to close out the episode, we see Cathy with Nikki and Brie and Lauren, and she says that she wants to support her daughters as they, reform their relationship with their father. After all these episodes, she finally comes to her senses, and they're making tamales, because that's a part of their Mexican culture, whatever. So dumb. I mean, I do like tamales, but the fact they're going out of their way to be Mexican all of a sudden is so stupid, in my opinion. So that's when Lauren stands up to Brie, and go Lauren here, and Lauren obviously is the wife of JJ, who is the brother of the Bellas. Lauren says, hey, I don't think JJ wanted to be here because I think he thought you were being too overbearing. She pulls no punches. She doesn't go off on her, but she's telling the fucking straight up truth. That she was being way overbearing. She, crossed the boundary, crossed the line, whatever, when she shouldn't have. And she wasn't being rude. She was coming from a nice place. But she's the type of person who wouldn't want anything, thrust upon her or forced upon her. So why would JJ be any different? And that's when she feels bad again, as she should. And they get back to that later. So Nikki tells Cathy, their mom, Mama Bella, while they're out or something, that she's 2 weeks late. And you could probably tell what that means. She thinks that she might be pregnant. And she's like in this whole weird state right now. She just made up with Arden. Everything, if she was to have a baby, would be way too quick. She's not quite ready for that stage yet. So anyway, Brie meets up with JJ at the end of the episode. She wants Birdie to know Spanish, and that's where she apologizes to JJ for forcing their Mexican culture on him. And he's like, listen, I'm not going to seek it. Why would I seek it when I live it every day of my life? And again, he's absolutely right. And Bree's like, it's going to be something that he wants to do on his own. I can't force him to do it, which again is accurate. Finally, she realizes that's what she should have done from the get-go. Let him do it on his own. If he wants to reform that relationship or whatever, his kinship to his father, then so be it. Otherwise, it's completely stupid for her to be forcing this upon him. So then at the end of the episode, we see Cathy meet up with Nikki at her place, or Brian and Bree's place, whatever. So that's when Cathy brings a pregnancy test for Nikki to take. And Nikki admittedly doesn't want to take it because she doesn't want to even know if she's pregnant. She might be. She very well might be. But she would rather not know and stress out about it and whatever, which I completely get. I mean, I'm not a woman, but with other situations, I can relate to that, so I get it. And so Cathy tells Brie about the situation over the phone while Nikki's there. And Nikki's like, listen, if you guys shut up, if you shut the hell up, I'll go take the pregnancy test. And Cathy's like, oh, really? And she's like, yeah, I'll go do it. So before she's about to take the test, coincidentally enough, that's when Arden gets home. And that's when the episode cuts off. Very interesting to see where this leads. if she actually is pregnant. She's pregnant now, of course. I don't know if she's pregnant here or if she's pregnant later. I don't know. I don't know when. I mean, we saw her on SmackDown back in February. If she was pregnant in October, which I believe is when this episode takes place, she'd be having her baby when? In August, I think? No, not even then. July, which is right around the corner. I feel like that's too soon. I don't know. I feel like she's not pregnant here, and she gets pregnant later on. But that's purely my speculation, because I think they are building to her revealing that she's pregnant at the end of the season. And the next episode is only episode 7, so I don't know. Anyway, I thought this was a very good episode overall. A lot of drama, maybe because I felt for Arden in this situation. And again, I will say it a million more times. He was 100% in the right. I do not defend Nikki here whatsoever. A little bit with the whole past relationship shit, but that doesn't exactly make up for it, nor is it an excuse. So anyway, guys, be sure to check out all my other Total Bellas reviews right here on the channel. In the description box down below, click on the link for all my WWE Network and Chill Total Bellas reviews. We'll be back next week with my review of Season 5, Episode 7. Until then, be sure to like this video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. And yeah, this is going up today on Friday. Tomorrow is my SmackDown review. And I believe... I know there's a new Chronicle and Shayna Baszler going up as well. My review of that should be up either Saturday or Sunday. And then I think there's something else going up on Sunday. I think the first episode of that Taker series. I'll review that probably on Monday. So keep an eye out for that. Until next time, guys, I'm Graham G.S. Matthews. I'll catch your ass down the road.